Welcome. So today we're going to look at the three bits of kit in the changing places, and we're going to start with the ceiling hoist. Now, the ceiling hoist is designed to lift the patient from their wheelchair onto the toilet, onto the changing table, back into their wheelchair. And essentially this is the motorised bit which takes the strain for the care assistant. So they'll come with their fabric sling. Normally that will be positioned behind them, but they might bring it separately. You're not under any obligation to provide a sling. The slings are sized and shaped according to the individual. The key thing is that the sling will attach onto these hooks here, and then with the hoist we can then lift them, put them onto the trolley, undress them, shower them, put them on the toilet, all that personal care stuff, and the care staff don't really need to feel the load. The hoist itself has internal batteries, but it is charged through the mains. Up in this corner is a charger. So wherever we leave it in the track, it will be charging. Now, understandably, in a situation like this, we're not going to drain the battery. This will do about 40 lifts on a full battery. So here it's just use it once, maybe twice a day. You'll top up whilst it's lying dormant. So nobody should ever come in here and find a flat battery, unless the power circuit goes down. So the main reason this is battery powered is that if we do have someone up in the hoist and the power does fail in the building, we can still do those final manoeuvres. The operation of the hoist is via this handset, just two buttons up and down. So soft start and stop, it's fairly slow in activity. As soon as we take our finger off the button, it will come to a stop and we can carry on either direction. Now, the hoist is showing green here, which is a good sign. As and when the battery gets used, this will flick to orange, both here and on the unit. And that just shows it's taking a charge. It may even do it today during the training, but we've obviously got a full battery today and we're not really lifting any load. So this mounted at this height has got enough travel to lift someone from the floor. So if they do need to get onto the floor for some physio or stretches or whatever, not ideal today, but they could do it, and they better pick them up safely and carry on with the day. This is magnetic, the handset is magnetic, so it will stick onto what we call the spreader bar, and the spreader bar is rotating here on the collar, so that the lift tape doesn't need to get twisted. So it's mounted on three tracks, two which are fixed in the room, one which is moving, and that allows us to move up and down the room and along this row. So essentially we can cover anywhere within this main rectangle of the room, which covers all the main parts. The big transfer space here, the changing table and the toilet. And whilst the ceiling here is a little bit lower than perhaps we might really like in an ideal world, we've got a really compact hoist, so you should get more than enough lift here for even a larger individual in a larger chair, so a power chair. The hoist itself will lift 30 stone, so 200 kilos, 220 kilos I think actually. So very able hoist, even though it's quite small. You'll notice that the lights will turn themselves off, so after a few seconds of inactivity it'll go into dormant mode. So if in your routine checks, if you want to come in and just wake it up by pushing the button, check that it's going green. If it gives you an orange light, nothing to be worried about, but if it gives you a red light, that will mean that there is a fail in the product somewhere. And at that point it's probably best just to give us a call so we can walk through the troubleshooting. Now, one of the main reasons for that red light is this cord here. Now, because it's an ISO registered product, we have to have an emergency stop and an emergency lower. This does both, so it's on a bit of a hair trigger, but we pull it and the button pops out, red collar around the button. That shows us that the hoist is now inactive. So if someone reports the hoist isn't working, this is the first place to start. And all we need to do is push that back in, we're good to go. This is also emergency lower, so if you have someone up in the hoist and something breaks in the control, it's not unusual. People are very busy and lots of stuff going on. So if they drop this on the floor and tread on it, they're not completely stuffed. They can pull and hold. You get red light, an audible beep, and you can lower someone into safety. Now having done that, obviously you pop the red button out, so you just need to push that back in and we can carry on as usual. Clearly, if you've had to use the emergency descent in anger, you probably need to get the hoist seen to. That means that somewhere something's gone wrong. But that said, we do find people use this as like a secondary method of just grab and hold whilst you're trying to lower someone into a chair if you're trying to manage them on your own. So, battery powered is charging, and I always recommend that day to day, without people using it, we just park it in the corner so it's out of the way. So if someone does come in with some vision impairment, they're not going to walk into it. It's out of the way and easy to find. Any questions? The safe working load? 205 kilos, 30 stone. Yeah. Everything in this room, according to British standard, has to carry a patient of 30 stone minimum. So the hoist is good, the toilet's good, the bench is good, the door's wider than usual, the rails take that weight. So yeah, it's a room built for larger wheelchairs, larger people and more people. So typically you'll get a visitor in a power chair, they might come with 2 care assistants, so quite a lot of baggage. Hence the reason you've got 6 coat hooks on the wall to get everything up on the wall out of the way. Okay, that's the hoist. So this is your shower changing table. It's a mobile trolley as opposed to being wall mounted, and that allows us to move it out into the room critically, so that if we have someone using the trolley which is really active, particularly if they love getting wet, or if the sensation of getting out of their wheelchair is properly exciting, they will be quite mobile in here. Arms and legs need to be looked after. So quite often you need a person both sides, which you can't do with a wall mounted table. So this has got that advantage. It is mobile, but it can be braked. So at this end, we have a brake which locks all 4 casters. So now it's stable on the floor, and we just lift them to get going again. The table is fixed at an angle, so any water that we spray in here from the shower will come down to the foot end, through the hole in the liner and down the drain pipe. And as you can see in this position, it will drain straight into that drain in the floor. Now we have provided a plug, so we can pop the plug in if we want to create like a shallow bath. Again, some people, the sensory advantage of having a little bit of water is quite useful. This can come off very easily, so if you need to put it in, you might find it works better when it's not attached to the trolley. And you do have a little head filler, which is free roaming, so you can use that under the neck or under the knees, depending on what's most comfortable for the user. It's got protection wheels at each corner, so you should protect them in the room, but it has to be said, it's quite a big trolley. It's quite likely to be quite a lot of stuff in here. So if someone apologises for bashing a hole in the wall, they've probably done their uttermost not to damage anything and just overlook something. On this long edge, either side you can get to the height adjustment. So this is a hydraulic control. So you just push it down to change the height vertically and lift it with your foot to lower. It's very straightforward, but that really is an advantage for the care staff, so they can bring it up to waist height, so they're not having to bend over. And then each of the long sides also folds as well. So in the centre here is 2 black pins, which if we just push them together, that folds down, which allows this side to fold down. So if you do have someone that wants to sit onto the table rather than being hoisted, they can do that. That just lifts back up and it locks in the position. Okay? This is your height adjustable basin, and essentially it is just a washout basin, but with the added advantage that it does travel up and down. It only goes 300 millimetres, 12 inches in height, but it means we can accommodate someone sitting in a wheelchair and potentially quite a small user. and then a standing user or somebody with quite a high seated wheelchair. Operation, like the hoist, is via this handset, just 2 buttons. So we press it and it will move the basin in the appropriate direction. It will stop when it gets to the end of its travel. So its lowest setting, slightly lower than a standard basin, which means that with what is essentially a shallow bowl, a standard wheelchair with the seated users can get right underneath. These handles are quite useful for someone to pull themselves in and position themselves. And then you've got a long lever tap, thermostatic water control, so it will deliver water no hotter than 42 degrees. And if you do find that the water tends to sit in the basin, it's not uncommon for it to drain quite slowly, because there's quite a lot of pipe work inside, which has to be flexible. So if we just raise it back up again, it gives the best excuse for the water to disappear. It hasn't got a plug, so if someone does leave the sink running and block it with toilet paper, then you have got an overflow. And if all else fails, you've got a drain in the floor. That is your basin.